Hello friends, my name is Dan, and in this video we're going to go into the depth and detail of the statistics on the website of the Office of the Police Complaint Commissioner. Now, that's a bit of a mouthful, so what I'm going to try to do for the rest of this video is just refer to the Office of the Police Complaint Commissioner as the OPCC. So if you click on statistics on their website, you'll have some options of statistical reports. What you find in these statistical reports may shock you. Now for me, personally, the statistical report that I want to focus on is one that fell within the realm of the time that I made my very first ever complaint about a police officer. And that date was July 19th, 2015. So we're going to go to the 2015-2016 second quarter statistical report, and you can see that 281 files were opened between July 1st and September 30th, 2015. 134 were registered complaints, 48 were questions or concerns, 3 were internal discipline, 87 were monitor, and 9 were ordered investigations. Now, we come to this part called Breakdown of Admissibility of Registered Complaints. And this is a part that has quite a loophole in it, and you don't know it, you'll never find it, you'll never realize it until you've been through this process and you look back and go, wow, that didn't work at all. So as you can see here, between July 1st and September 30th, 2015, 43 registered complaints were found to be admissible. What's below that were the complaints that were found to be inadmissible. You can see that 42 of them, no misconduct was identified. 2 were out of time, 1 was withdrawn, and 2 were found to be frivolous, vexatious. Now that may just look, like the way it is to you, but to me, I see a huge loophole here. And if you look at this, we have 43 registered complaints that were found to be admissible, and a whole bunch below that were basically just tossed, with the exception of 2 that were out of time and 1 that was withdrawn. So let's just remember that. Let's see, 43 were admissible, and the rest below, which adds up to 44, 45, 47. So 43 were admissible, 47 were inadmissible. Just keep that in mind. We'll sort of touch back on that in a sec here. The files that were opened July 1st to September 30th, 2015, are broken down in this part by the department. They go into the inadmissible register, the admissible register, the admissibility decision pending, the mandatory investigation, the ordered investigation, which is a department request. That's done by the police department itself. There's an ordered investigation that's PCC initiated. That's the Police Complaint Commissioner ordering the investigations. There's a section where they monitor registered complaints. There's a section for questions or concerns, internal discipline, and service or policy complaints. And if you look at these departments, just by going by the inadmissible registered and the admissible registered, you'll see that for the most part, those numbers are similar. So let's say like Delta, for example, 2 inadmissible registered and 2 admissible registered. Let's go to the next page. You see here Vancouver has 21 inadmissible registered and 25 admissible registered. So those numbers are quite similar. And next we go into this part about what happens to an admissible complaint. Well, there's several things that can happen. First, it can be withdrawn. So the person who made the complaint could withdraw it. It could be informally resolved. Another option is to have the complaint mediated. Yet another option here is discontinued. And I'm going to read this, the part here, the fine print here for discontinued. It says, the Commissioner may direct an investigation into allegations of misconduct to be discontinued if it is determined that further investigation is neither necessary nor reasonably practicable, or if it is found that the complainant is frivolous, vexatious, or made knowing the allegations were false. Now, discontinued can be done at any time. That also includes before the complaint is actually investigated. Although I do want to say more on discontinued, let's just continue on with there's 2 more options below. One is not substantiated, and I'm going to read that fine print as well. Following an investigation conducted pursuant to Division 3, the Discipline Authority determines that there is no evidence to support the allegation of misconduct, and the OPCC determines that the adjudicative review is not necessary. And last and final option for those admissible complaints is substantiated. And I'm going to read you this fine print as well. Following an investigation conducted pursuant to Division 3, the Discipline Authority determines that the allegation is supported by the evidence. The Discipline Authority must then decide on appropriate disciplinary and/or corrective measures to impose. Now, if you've ever been through this process, chances are, I'd say about 50-50, that your complaint will either be found admissible or inadmissible. Now, let's consider your complaint was found to be admissible. Is there going to be an investigation? No guarantee there, none whatsoever. Because you remember discontinued? Well, imagine you've made a complaint against the police and your complaint was found to be admissible, and within days, maybe weeks, your complaint was discontinued before it could even be investigated. Now, why would that be? Well, as they stated earlier, your complaint would be discontinued if it is determined that further investigation is neither necessary nor reasonably practicable, or if it is found that your complaint is frivolous, vexatious, or made knowing the allegations were false. So how do they determine that? So it's my opinion, through my experience with the OPCC, that this discontinued is actually a bit of a loophole. Basically what it is they have to find at least some complaints to be admissible. They can't just find the majority of the complaints to be inadmissible. How would that look on their statistics on their website? It'd look pretty bad. So here it is, folks. This is the loophole, discontinued. So let's look back one more time here. So between July 1st and September 30th, 2015, 43 were found to be admissible and 44 that are inadmissible. How many of those 43 admissible were shortly after discontinued? Do you see where I'm getting at here? You have 43 registered complaints that were found to be admissible. How many of those 43 admissible complaints are going to end up being substantiated and the police member receives some sort of discipline? Do you think it's 43? Right? Do you see what I'm getting at here? There's 43 that were found admissible and 44 that were found to be inadmissible. All 43 of those admissible complaints are subject to being discontinued, and that's before an investigation even starts. Do you see the loophole there? So the discontinued, again, perfect loophole. All right, so now that we've got the admissibility, inadmissibility loophole on the table and out of the way, let's move on to the second part of this second quarter statistical report, which deals with the concluded allegations and complaints. So between July 1st and September 30th, 2015, the OPCC concluded 172 complaints. Out of 172 complaints that were concluded, 73 were unsubstantiated, 40 were withdrawn, 29 were discontinued, 22 were informally resolved, and 8 were substantiated. So out of 172 complaints that were concluded between July 1st and September 30th, 2015, only 8 were substantiated, meaning that evidence supported misconduct by a police member, and that police member was disciplined. Now, here is the beauty of this website and the statistics of the OPCC. They detail those 8 substantiated complaints where evidence supported misconduct and the police member was disciplined. So let's have a look at those 8 substantiated allegations. Now, the 8 substantiated allegations between July 1st and September 30th, 2015 are all done in alphabetical order of the department. So we start with Abbotsford. And the first substantiated allegation for Abbotsford is actually misconduct times 2 for 1 police member. And if you read the details, this is how it starts. Ordered investigation, request by department. So that means that this was a complaint that was initiated by the police department, within the police department, behind the scenes. So this is not a member of the public or a civilian making a complaint about a police officer. This is misconduct witnessed or uncovered by other police officers within the police department. And in this case, the misconduct defined is unauthorized use of police facilities resources. The police member accessed police databases for purposes unrelated to his or her duties as a police officer. The second allegation of misconduct, just below that, the misconduct is defined as neglect of duty. The police member failed to obey a cease contact order issued by the chief constable. So it sounds like the chief of police in Abbotsford issued a cease contact order, and a police member failed to follow that order. So let's look at the discipline for those 2 allegations of misconduct. So for the first one, as you recall, is unauthorized use of police facilities resources. And it goes into a little detail about how that was unauthorized search of CPIC Prime. So for example, some random person, if you search their name in that system, it'll bring up all their information, their full name, their address, any sort of criminal record, any sort of interactions with police members in the past. And the discipline? Written reprimand. So he basically got a piece of paper saying, don't do that again. The second allegation of misconduct for this member was neglect of duty. And that was the failure to follow the supervisor's lawful order. That was the cease contact order. And the discipline? 12-day suspension, as well as removal of the designation senior to the member's rank. After 1 year from the date discipline was imposed, the member will be eligible to compete for that position once more. The member is not eligible to act as or compete for the rank of sergeant for a period of 1 year. Next up, as we go by department in alphabetical order, it's the CFSEU, Combined Forces Special Enforcement Unit. And this is a ordered investigation, request by department. Just like the first one. This is not a complaint that was made by a member of the public or a civilian. This was done behind the scenes in the police department. This is the police making a complaint against other police members. The misconduct? Improper use or care of firearms. The police member failed to properly account for his or her firearm after retirement. And the discipline? Verbal reprimand. So this retired police member who failed to properly account for his or her firearm after retirement got a verbal reprimand, was verbally told, don't do that again. Hey? Wait a sec, they've already retired. Now, I also have to wonder how much of the taxpayers' money was spent on this. Alrighty, so let's move on. So the next department in alphabetical order is Delta. Ordered investigation, request by department. Wait a sec. Again, this is not a complaint made by a member of the public or a civilian. This is a ordered investigation, request by department. That means that this happened within the police department. And it's the police making a complaint against another member of the police department. The misconduct defined here are 2 counts of discreditable conduct. The first one is the police member engaged in a relationship with a person believed to be involved in the sale of a controlled substance. The second is the police member purchased and used non-prescription steroids. And the discipline? Reduction in rank for 18 months. Direction to work under close supervision. Written reprimand for the second allegation of discreditable conduct. The discipline? Reduction in rank for 18 months, concurrent with previous. Direction to treatment as required by employer. And a written reprimand. And next up in alphabetical order is Vancouver. We have a ordered investigation request by department. So every time you hear me say that now, you know that this is not a complaint that was made by a member of the public or a civilian. This is a complaint that has been forwarded by the police department on another police member. The misconduct defined here is improper use or care of firearms. The police member left his or her loaded police-issued firearm in a drawer in his or her desk. And the discipline for improper use or care of firearms? Written reprimand. And the next one for Vancouver is an ordered investigation. Request by department. So you know what that means, right? Yeah. This is all happening behind the scenes. The public doesn't know about this, yada, yada, yada. So the misconduct is improper use or care of firearms. The police member neglected to ensure his or her police-issued firearm was not loaded before engaging in practicing dry firing prior to attending the range for his or her annual firearms qualification. And the discipline for improper use of care of firearms? Members required to undertake specific retraining on the safe use of firearms and advice to future conduct. Well, I feel safer. It's good to have police members trained on the safe use of firearms. Wouldn't you agree? Alrighty, so there's another one here for Vancouver. It's an ordered investigation initiated by PCC. That is the Police Complaint Commissioner. His name is Stan Lowe. So it sounds to me like he got wind of this, quote, misconduct, unquote, before sort of anyone else could put the wheels in motion. The misconduct defined here is neglect of duty. The police member failed to drive with due care, specifically by driving through a red light and causing a collision with another vehicle. And the discipline for this neglect of duty, dangerous driving, verbal reprimand. And it looks like we're down to the last one here. This is number 8 of the 8. Ordered investigation request by department. So this is, again, behind the scenes. Nobody from the public made this complaint. This is all within the police department. The misconduct defined here is discreditable conduct. The police member made a derogatory comment on Facebook. The member's profile on Facebook identified him or her as a police member. So that means that another police member saw this police member's comment on Facebook and that their Facebook account identified them as a police member and said, hey, we're not allowed to do that. And there we have it. It's an ordered investigation request by department. So no one from the public, no civilians made this complaint. And the discipline for discreditable conduct? Verbal reprimand. So there you have it. There's 8 out of 8 substantiated allegations. They were all, but one, initiated by that member's police department, with the exception, of course, is the one initiated by the PCC, Police Complaint Commissioner, Stan Lowe, which, in my opinion, isn't really any different than a request by the department. It's basically all the guys behind the scenes making the complaints, and those are the ones that get substantiated, and those are the ones where the police members receive discipline. So now that you've seen in depth and detail what they do at the OPCC through the statistics on their own website, you should ask yourself, if you have a complaint against the police for misconduct, will your complaint be found admissible? Now, let's say your complaint is found to be admissible. What are the chances of your complaint being discontinued before it even gets investigated? Now, ask yourself, if you've got an admissible complaint that's actually being investigated, what are the chances that your complaint will be concluded and found to be substantiated? If you want to look at other statistical reports on their website, you can root through there, and you will find substantiated complaints that were made by the public, that were made by civilians. But you're going to also find that if you research those cases, those are cases where, BC Civil Liberties got involved, or it was all captured on like a surveillance footage. And that's how it works at the OPCC. Thanks for watching. I'm Dan, and there's another video coming up soon in where I have reason to believe, as well as proof, that the OPCC does not have authority to act in the province of British Columbia. Thanks for watching.